Welcome everyone to the Farmer Client and Impact session. I'm Collins Marita. I'm the one who was entrusted with the task of trying to collect evidence and measure impact for the agri-finance related program across varied portfolio and countries. With that in mind, from the onset, we knew that we had to be innovative in a way that we not only implement the program, but also in ways that we try to measure impact. And I've had the privilege of working through various strategies and research protocols. And finally, we came up with an agile way that we're going to be sharing with you here today. But before we start the session, I'd just like to thank or take this opportunity to thank our partners who, during this pandemic and during these trying times, they took their time and dedicated resources towards helping us conduct this research exercise. Um, uh, they have been kind enough to also just pre-record some videos. You can go to the pre-recorded videos tab under this session, and there you can see them sharing their insights. We have also developed a few or research outputs that accompany some of these insights. They are available on our website and on this session tab as well. Kindly go there and engage with them. My hope is that by you seeing what level of impact our partners have been able to have at the farmer level, we can continue supporting them through these trying times and beyond. So with that, I'd like to also say that with this assistance, we have been able to aggregate the results and being able to see what impact we have had at the program level. And we are going to share with you today all of these insights. All of this will definitely not have been possible without collaborations and partnerships. And for us to execute our impact, we have worked with 60 Decibels, with Busara Center for Behavioral Economics, with Georgetown University, with Ipsos. We have worked with a whole range of research partners, as well as in Zambia, we've worked with PRS. But for this particular session that is going to start, we have the privilege of being supported by the CIMA funds under the 66, being implemented by the 60 Decibels, funded by the FCDO. Without a particular funding, we wouldn't have been able to reach the partners that we're able to reach. Next, you're going to have a presentation from 60 Decibels. They are going to, the voice credits will go to Prashant. He's a senior associate at 60 Decibels. It's a pre-recording. I will share it with you, and then you can keep in mind the questions, and if the questions are being answered. If there's a particular question that you feel was not really addressed, you can share it with us at the Q&A session. All the people involved in the studies that you're going to be presenting today are part of the panel. They're willing to answer the questions that will arise either at the program level or at the project level. And all the questions will be addressed. If they can't be addressed during the session, we will try our best to answer them at the chat or add them to our end of program reporting. So for now, let's listen to the first insights that are being presented by 60 Decibels.
Hi, everyone. My name is Prashant, and I'm a senior associate with 60 Decibel. I was leading the impact evaluation project with AgriFin's partners. I'd like to begin by thanking AgriFin for having me on this session about farmer level impact. I'll start with a very quick introduction about 60 Decibel. 60dB is an end-to-end impact measurement company. Using a proprietary lean data approach, we speak directly to beneficiaries, collecting high-quality data in weeks to help maximize impact and scale interventions. In the next 15 minutes, I'll be sharing insights from the lean data studies that we conducted over the course of 2020 and 2021 with farmers of 10 social enterprises that are AgriFin's partners. I'd like to start by sharing the scope in terms of what we focused on the projects. The first was the question we tried to answer, the first one being who was surveyed, how did we survey them, and what was covered in the surveys. In terms of who, 10 of AgriFin's partners signed up for a lean data study. In terms of their presence, 7 are in Kenya, 2 in Nigeria, and 1 in Tanzania. 9 identify themselves as private social enterprises, while 1 is governmental. The partners provided a variety of different products and services, and based on that, we categorize them into 4 broad clusters. First, training and information, or training and advisory. These included organizations that provided weather-related information or advisory services like soil testing or app-based farming and financial training. Second, mechanization. These included organizations that provided on-grid tractors or solar water pumps. Third, market access. These included organizations that provided off-take services from select crops like chilies, avocados, soybeans, and cassava. And lastly, financial input. These included organizations that provided crop insurance services or access to saving streams through village level savings group. In terms of how we did it, for each partner, we randomly selected 250 farmers from their population who received the partner's product or service in the last 1 year. All surveys were conducted over phone with an average response rate of 60%, and they were conducted in local languages by 60 decibels enumerators. And lastly, in terms of what, we designed a 40-question survey with AgriFin. The survey was semi-structured in nature with a mix of quantitative and qualitative questions. In terms of the focus, the survey covered the following broad dimensions. First, who is the partner reaching? How many identify as female? How many living in poverty? Are farmers accessing a product or service for the first time? And do they have any alternatives? Second, what impact is a partner having on the farmer's way of farming, their production, farming revenue, or overall quality of life? Third, what is the experience of farmers in engaging with the product or services? Are they satisfied or are they dissatisfied? What is the net promoter score? Are they facing challenges? And do they have any suggestions for improvement for the partner? The findings in the presentation come from the responses of 2,514 farmers. You will see quotations from farmers throughout this presentation. Of course, all this data comes through their voices and what they share. So there are 8 findings that I like to cover today. First, partners are reaching underserved populations, half of whom are living in poverty and a third of whom are women. Second, the products and services being provided to these underserved populations are unique and they do not have many alternatives. Third, overall, farmers are satisfied and they report being positively impacted by the products and services. Moreover, AgriFin is outperforming the 60 decibels agriculture benchmark on metrics of farmer experience and impact. Fourth, there are no discernible differences in how women farmers are experiencing the products and services and being impacted by them compared to their male counterparts. Fifth, bundled services have a greater impact and are one of farmers' biggest asks. Sixth, operational challenges might be limiting impact. Resolving those will also improve farmer satisfaction and deepen the loyalty. Seventh, companies providing farm mechanization perform strongly on satisfaction and impact, but have a predominantly large male farmer base. And lastly, impact of village level savings group percolates down to the livelihood of the members, especially among the farming households. Now let's take a deeper look at each of these. Through the first insight, we try to understand the level of inclusivity of AgriFin's partners in terms of gender and poverty levels. On the former, we found that in 35% of the instances, the member of the household who was primarily engaging with the partner's product or service was a woman. The proportion of women reached did vary significantly across partners, and we will cover more on that shortly. To understand poverty inclusivity, we used a leaner version of IPA's Poverty Probability Index, or commonly known as PPI, to compute the proportion of partners farmers who were living under the World Bank income lines of 1.9, 3.2, $5.5 per person per day at 2011 PPP. We contextualize this by comparing it to the proportion of the country's population living under those income lines. Thereby, inclusivity ratio, a core metric of 60 decibels, is the average of the division of those 2 percentages at those 3 income lines. An inclusivity of 1 implies that a partner is reaching a segment of the total population that is identical to the national population in terms of poverty. An inclusivity of greater than 1 implies that the partner has an even higher poverty reach than the national country average and is thereby over-penetrating at those income segments, while inclusivity of less than 1 implies that the partner is under-penetrating at those income segments. The chart on the right shows the distribution of farmers on those three income lines. It might be difficult to spot the gray line that represents the national country average, and that's because the distribution of AgriFin partners farmers is nearly identical to that of the national country averages, resulting in an inclusivity ratio of 0.97. Let's move on to the second insight. We try to further understand the extent to which the farmers were underserved. We assess this by asking how many of them were accessing a partner's products or services for the first time, and found that 84% were accessing them for the first time ever. We also asked farmers if they had access to a good alternative to the partner's product and service. And 81% said that they did not have access to an alternative which was equally good. Now, as I mentioned, we did observe that gender and poverty inclusivity varied by partner. To better understand the variation, we plotted the performance of each partner on three indicators of reach. The indicators being inclusivity ratio, and this is plotted on the x-axis and ranges from 0 to 2. Proportion of farmers who said that they're accessing a product or service like the partners for the first time ever, and this is plotted on the y-axis. Proportion of females that are being served. The size of the bubble indicates the reach. Bigger the bubble, more the proportion of female farmers. And lastly, because partner names are anonymized, we've used 4 colors to categorize them into the clusters that I introduced at the beginning. I'll pause for a few seconds so that you can absorb the chart and spot the extent of variation across partners. Now let's walk through this chart in a little more detail. On poverty inclusivity, we found that half the partners have an inclusivity of greater than 1, implying they have a high poverty reach. The ones who do not have been grayed out on the chart. On first-time access, at least 75% of the farmers across 9 out of 10 partners say that they're accessing the product or service like the partners for the first time ever. On gender inclusivity, half the partners have a farmer base where at least 1/3 are women. And to put it all together, we found that 6 out of 10 partners perform strongly on at least 2 out of the 3 indicators of reach. The 4 who do not have been grayed out. Let's move to the third insight. We try to understand the experience of farmers working with the partner and engaging with their products and services. We assess this using 2 of our core indicators. The first one being challenges. We asked a simple question to understand how many farmers face challenges with the partner or their product or service. And overall, 30% of all farmers report facing challenges. The second indicator we computed was a Net Promoter Score. The Net Promoter Score, or NPS, is a common gauge of customer satisfaction and loyalty. NPS is measured by asking customers to rate their likelihood to recommend a product or a service to a friend or a family member on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is least likely and 10 is most likely. The NPS can be anything from -100 to 100, and a score of more than 50 is usually considered excellent, and AgriFin has an NPS of 49. To measure the partner's impact, we use 4 key indicators. First, change in way of farming. Second, change in crop production. Crop here refers to the targeted commodity that the partner was trying to impact. Third, change in money earned from crop. And lastly, change in overall quality of life. Now, across each of these 4 indicators, you will observe that at least 70% farmers reported improvements across all 4 of them. Further, we used the weighted average method to understand the net change in the money earned from crop and found that to be plus 34%. Now, this is a lot of information, and it's important to contextualize it. And therefore, to contextualize these numbers that I just shared, we compared AgriFin's performance along those 6 indicators, 2 of experience, 4 of impact, to the 60 decibels agriculture benchmark. Our benchmark is made up of 50 plus similar social enterprises from Africa and beyond. The gray hexagon corresponds to the 60 dB benchmark and has been equalized to 100%. Each vertex of the hexagon corresponds to an indicator, and those are Net Promoter Score, farmers reporting no challenges, farmers who very much improved their way of farming, farmers who very much increased their production, farmers who very much increased the money they earn, and farmers who very much improved their overall quality of life. The pink line showcases AgriFin's performance relative to the benchmark. The pink shaded icons are those where AgriFin is outperforming the benchmark. And as we can see, AgriFin is outperforming the benchmark on all indicators except one. Their average performance, which is an average of the numbers you see on the chart, stands at 109%, which exceeds the benchmark by 9 percentage points. Let's move to the fourth insight. We tried to understand if there were differences in the profile of male and female farmers and if they were differently experiencing the products and services. We shortlisted 6 indicators. 3 were profile based. These included poverty profile, first time access, and access to alternative. And 3 were about farmer experience, which were in percentage of land on which product or service was being used or applied, the net promoter score, and the percentage of farmers facing no challenges. We found that male and female farmers performed similarly on all 6 indicators, implying that they were experiencing the product and services in an identical way. Similarly, we shortlisted 6 impact indicators to understand if there were differences in how male and female farmers were being impacted by the products and services. The 6 indicators were changes in way of farming, changes in production, changes in money earned, net change in money earned, percentage reporting that the partner had a significant positive effect on the recovery from a climate shock, and changes in overall quality of life. And here too, we found no differences between how male and female farmers were being impacted by the products and services. I'll take a quick pause so that you can take a closer look at both charts. Let's move on to insight number 5. Now, we asked farmers what suggestions they have for the partner to improve. And most farmers stated that they would like the partner to provide more services in the form of a bundled offering. Out of the 10 partners we work with, 3 partners had provided bundled offerings to a subset of their farmers. For example, a third of Acre Africa's farmers received inputs along with the core offering of crop insurance, and a third of Caldo's farmers received inputs along with the core offering of weather information. For those 3 partners, we tried to understand if there were differences in reported impact between farmers who received the bundled offering and those that received only the core offering. We shortlisted the same 6 impact metrics that we just used for the gender performance disaggregation. The pink line indicates impact outcomes among farmers who received a bundled offering, while the blue line indicates those who received only the core offering. We found that farmers that received the bundled offering reported a much deeper impact on 4 out of the 6 impact metrics and had an average performance of 59% compared to 46 for those that received only the core offering. In a farmer's words, they shared that the partner should go a step further in advising farmers on how to intensify their farming activities to achieve maximum production, because farming is not at all only about applying fertilizer or changing from one fertilizer to another. They should advise us on what more farming activities we can carry out to make the best use of our farms. Let's move to insight number 6. Now, 30% of the farmers reported facing challenges, and these varied by clusters and partners. Farmers facing challenges had a much lower net promoter score of 11 compared to 65 for those who did not. Challenges and lower satisfaction overall are likely to inhibit the onset of impact. Now we'll take a look at common challenges that stood out to us at a cluster level. Let's take a look at the market access companies. On the slide, you have to focus on the row that has black font. For market access players, payment delays and lack of communication are the biggest challenges. Now let's take a look at the companies providing training, advisory information. For partners providing these, farmers want more detailed information more frequently and want help with applying the information. And lastly, let's look at the company providing financial service like insurance. Farmers receiving insurance ask for better follow-up support and more regular communication. Let's move on to the 7th insight. Now, across the 4 clusters, farm mechanization companies had the highest average performance rating on farmer experience and impact, And they also significantly outperform the 60 decibel agriculture benchmark. However, less than 2 in 10 farmers receiving their services are women, implying that the efficiency gains from asset usage was predominantly helping men avoid farming drudgery. In a partner performance ranking approach that we put together, both mechanization companies were bottom ranked or dimension of reach, even though they were top performing on dimension of farmer experience and impact. Gender inclusive acquisition channels and outreach may help farm mechanization companies to service more female farmers, thereby widening their gender reach. And now let's come to the final insight. Now, we wanted to understand how membership to a village level savings group impacted livelihoods of members, especially those who are farmers. Through our research with Chamoka, we learned that about half the members invested their savings back into farming. As a result, 91% farmers reported improvements in their way of farming. They explained that increased savings helped them buy quality inputs that they could not afford earlier. Improved inputs led to increased production for 84% of them. Increased production led to increased revenues from farming for 81% of them. And as a result of all of this, 82% said that their overall quality of life improved because of village level savings group. Interestingly, 70% also said that the savings from the group helped them recover from the climate shock. Now, as listening to the customer's voice is the core of our work at 60 decibels, I'd like to wrap up the presentation with a quotation we really liked. The farmer said, "I'm now able to feed myself because my yields have increased a lot. My farm produce is good due to the weather forecast provided by the partner. So the quantity of food is now increased. I have 14 children, and I also feed more than 7 people who come to eat at my house. I need a lot of food for all of us, but now we thank God since the yields have increased. Before I didn't have a ride, but after I harvested rice and sold it, I bought a ride for myself. I also did not have a nice house, but I'm planning to build a new house after this season's harvest. Earlier, when I harvested rice, I didn't get more than 120 to 150 bags of rice to sell. But in the last harvest, I sold more than 800 bags of rice. It really is an improvement." And with that, I have reached the end of my presentation. I would like to thank Griffin once again for the investment of time and money in wanting to measure the impact of partners and bring farmer voice to the conversation. I would be happy to take any question in the Q&A session. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Prashant, for recording such a powerful presentation. I hope that despite the pandemic and everything else, we were able to come up with those captivating insights. We're able to see that through our program and through our products and services, we definitely don't leave no one behind, which stands with our ideals as Agrifin. As we move forward, even in new programming, we want to ensure that we don't leave no one behind, especially women. And in my quest to just continue coming up with new ways of gathering insights, I kept asking myself, we know our partners collect data and they have this data in-house. It would be great if we can be able to find out what insights we can get from their data. And I basically went in with one objective: let's see if we can measure any effects from the data that our partners collect. So we got into partnership with Busara Center for Behavioral Economics, and we basically did data analytics for around 7 to 8 of our partners. And in this video, probably we'll just get to see what we're able to find out from them.
My name is Joseph Dali. I work with the Busara Center for Behavioral Economics, AFA's learning partner on the Agile Impact Study, and I'll be taking you through the findings from the Agile Impact Study. Now, over the years, AFA has supported several partners across sub-Saharan African countries in expanding the access of digital services to smallholder farmers. Given its support, AFA decided to conduct a deep data analytics effort to understand its partners' influences on smallholder farmers' outcomes. To do this, partners' administrative data was explored for trends across 5 key areas: farmers' experience and perception of products and services offered to them by AFA's partners, the impact of partners' products and services on farmers' farming practice, farming outcome, and resilience to shocks, the factors that drive adoption and usage of digital products, how to increase the use of operational data among partners to generate insights, and to identify what can be done to generate richer insights in the long run. This study focused on 7 AFA partners with presence in 6 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, with the reach of the 2,561 farmers across 20 crop value chains. Of the 32,561 farmers, 37% of farmers were female. Now, for these partners, we identified 3 types of impact pathways through which the partners influence smallholder farmers' outcomes. The first one is by providing mechanization services and integrating farmers into more sustainable value chains. By providing farmers with mechanized tools like tractors, ploughs, harrowers that helps them during land preparation activities, and also integrating farmers into more sustainable value chains to ensure farmers get a fair price for their produce post-harvest. The second category of partners provide agronomic advisory services to farmers through SMSs. Farmers are provided with weather information and are also provided with actions to take given particular weather conditions to ensure that the planting cycle for farmers is smooth and to also reduce the losses that farmers face during planting. Lastly, there are also a group of partners that build smallholder farmers' resilience by offering risk mitigation products like insurance products, which are sometimes offered or bundled with loans. Now to the findings. Our core findings can be categorized into 5 areas, which are gender inclusion, digital transformation, the adoption of technology, the awareness of risk mitigation, and lastly, financial inclusion. Now, to start off with, on gender inclusion, we see a broad trend. We see increased representation in both agents and direct users of partners' products. Now, on the agent side, effective in-person skills have allowed women agents to play a critical role in reaching out to potential users. For example, for one of our partners that provides market linkage services, we observed that women agents transactions are the highest value transactions on the platform when compared with any other agent farmer combination, be it male farmer, male agent, male farmer, female agent. Also, women farmers have demonstrated enthusiasm in adopting new ways of handling farming. Over the past few years, there has been a growing trend of women farmers onboarded and retained on the digital services extended to them. Now, while this is due to deliberate efforts by some partners to extend their services to women, this is also due to the enthusiasm of women to take up these services. We strongly believe that continuous exposure of these technologies to more women will help sustain this impact. Now, another area we see impact is in digital transformation. An overarching lesson we see across multiple partners is that sufficient onboarding and user-centric design are keys to adoption and user retention. First, we see that digital farming has become a common concept for more and more smallholder farmers through various products and services provided by AFS partners, from planning and planting to selling products and risk mitigation. We see smallholder farmers embracing digital solutions throughout the entire farming cycle. For uptake of digital solutions, we observe that in-person onboarding has proved to be very useful in encouraging smallholder farmers to adopt these services in one form or the other. Also, products that speak to farmers' most urgent needs and focus on the simplicity of the interaction process are more likely to attract farmers. Now, this is particularly useful for services that provide agronomic content that can be quite technical for farmers to process. To ensure farmers move from intention to action, the interaction process should be made seamless as possible. Relatedly, we observe some impacts on adoption of technology for improving efficiency. We see that most smallholder farmers have benefited enormously from technologies that have significantly reduced manual labor on the farm. And these services have leveraged aggregation and extension agent support, while farmers are also able to access these services on their phone due to growing mobile penetration in sub-Saharan Africa. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected all as sundry, especially the most vulnerable, a group smallholder farmers particularly belong to. Now, prior to COVID-19, we observed that there's been an increase in the awareness of multiple mechanisms farmers use to cope with risks and external shocks. For example, weather insurance provided by a partner has been adopted by more smallholder farmers as a way to mitigate potential losses. We also observe that this risk mitigation product becomes more preferable and attractive when bundled with loan products. Also, loans are widely adopted as a coping mechanism for emergencies, urgent farm needs, and external shocks. Now, we think that since harvest income and savings are reported sources for repayments of these loans, in light of COVID, it is vital to sustain this virtuous cycle of improving farm outcomes through the digital solutions provided to smallholder farmers. Lastly, we see that faced with uncertainty or unpredictability of the current climate we are in, farmers have also adopted new habits of seeking information and advice from trustful sources via SMS. And yeah, we think partners that provide agronomic content, weather advisory services, are even become more important and valuable to the smallholder farmers. Now, on financial inclusion, we see that smallholder farmers are also having there's an increased access to loans and credit for purchasing farming related products or farming inputs. So access to loans, including mobile loans, has been made much easier for smallholder farmers by various actors on the ground. Also, some smallholder farmers who are able to meet certain financial criteria further enjoy the benefits of using credit payment schemes to invest on their farms by purchasing inputs or technology-based machines like drip irrigation kits. Now, given these 5 learnings, what can we do to ensure that a culture of learning and generation of actionable insights is encouraged across partners. We believe that to encourage a culture of learning, partners need to develop robust data management systems with these three guiding principles: purpose, quality, and feasibility. On purpose, we believe partners' data management strategies should strongly align with the business goals, which could be internal or external. So the internal purpose will be things like collecting data to ensure partners can monitor their operations, they can track progress on smallholder farmers' outcomes, decide the areas of growth, and further advise other business strategies. And externally, we feel you can also data management strategy should align with the goal of seeking investment opportunities. Secondly, farmer AFA partners should seek to collect data to optimize for quality. So data should be optimized to ensure automation of analysis. This particularly helps with monitoring and on-time um, delivery of quick insights to the partners. Lastly, partners should consider feasibility short and long term when deciding on what data to collect. Thank you and do enjoy the rest of the session.
Hello everyone, welcome to this session of Evidence-Based Farmer Level Impacts at the annual learning event by Mercy Corps. My name is Lan, a Senior Associate at Busara Center for Behavior Economics. Earlier in this session, you have heard the key learnings from a vast range of cases shared by 60 Decibels and Busara. Now I would like to take us through a particular case with DigiFarm, which is a flagship product by Safaricom. Before we get into the project details, please note that this panel studies assessed the impact from October last year to February this year. This was a time when the usual activities of both DigiFarm and farmers were severely restricted by COVID, so please keep this context in mind when making inferences from the findings. As some of you may already know, DigiFarm is an integrated mobile platform of digital services. Safaricom has aimed to make it a one-stop shop for smallholder farmers in Kenya by providing various end-to-end services. This study was particularly interested in three, namely Arifu for learning, loan for farmers to get input and also bundled with insurance, and access to market. In addition, we also asked for product experience with precision agriculture SMS for those who received it from CropIn. This study was designed to reveal who are DigiFarm users, how are their experiences, and particularly what types of bundle service they use and what influenced the adoption and usage. Eventually, it was aimed to unpack the impacts brought by different bundle services. Two research components were designed to meet those learning objectives. A 5-month quantitative panel data collection with 1,439 users and a qualitative follow-up with 52 users. The quantitative analysis is based on 1,185 users who participated in all 5 waves. Both components were carried out in the same 11 counties in Kenya. So what did we learn from this study? I will take us through some most high-level learnings in the following few minutes. Now, who are DigiFarm users? In our sample, 38% of them are female. Among all, 38% are less than 35 years old. 72% have achieved at least some secondary school education, and 88% are married. When it comes to making decisions within the household, we find that men users possess more decision-making autonomy than women, particularly when it comes to finance. Initially in the baseline, 71% of the sample reported their primary income source as their own farm. Over time, this percentage dropped to 62%. So where did this 9% of farmers go? Over the 5 months, they switched to business, informal labor, or formal employment for primary income. This trend is largely explained by the nature of planting season in Kenya. So typically there's a long rainy season for planting from March or April to August, and then another short rainy season from October to December. Therefore, the first 3 months of our evaluation, October to December, is a post-harvest time after the long rainy season and also a planting time. Influenced by this planting cycle from October to December, we observed an increasing trend of farm expenditure, and more than half of which was paid by credit, and at the same time a dropping trend in farm profit. This planting cycle also influenced the usage of loan and access to market, but not so much for Arifu. We find that Arifu and loan are the two standalone services being used and valued most. When bundled, the most common bundle contains two services. The top popular ones include Arifu with loan or with Precision Ag SMS. So, what attracts users to a service? We find that services that respond to users' urgent needs or daily needs are more likely to attract them and then retain them. Particularly for Arifu, users appreciate the flexibility and the convenient learning experience. Farmers further suggest that DigiFarm should provide in-person contact so that they can reach out for questions or provide in-person trainings for farmers with limited literacy. For loan, farmers highly value the ability to take credit to buy farm inputs when they cannot afford to miss the planting time yet are low in cash. They also appreciate the good quality of inputs. The main challenge comes with delayed or failed delivery of inputs. As to access to market, farmers hold different attitudes towards selling products online, but all of them share the positive experience. Fair prices and ability to repay DigiFarm loan using the revenue from this market are most valued. We also find influential factors that significantly drive the usage. They are onboarding through DigiFarm agents, receiving training, and practicing crop farming. You can see that receiving training appears in all three user cases, right? So this also speaks to what we find from the user stories that human contact is highly preferred and valued during onboarding and any forms of follow-up. Follow-up is believed to be essential for not only addressing technical challenges, but also to demonstrating a sense of care to users. So after using DigiFarm services, what has changed? We find that DigiFarm users start seeking for digital solutions to fulfill their long-term purposes. They start leaning on digital learning solutions like Arifu or other SMS-based advisory services to gain farming knowledge and better practice. Then during external shocks, they also seek for timely and comprehensive advice from DigiFarm and or Safaricom SMS. SMS has become a comfortable and inexpensive way for them to stay tuned. At the same time, we also find that more users have started using mobile wallet as their primary saving platform. Overall, they have been able to gain knowledge on good farming practice, expand the farm business, save more, and pay for school fees, and also build capacity for external shocks. Farmers who have been using multiple services from DigiFarm have reported positive impacts in more dimensions. In addition, positive experience with a particular service has encouraged some of them to explore and try out other types of digital solutions even beyond DigiFarm. We also measured the perceived impacts over time and found that the majority have experienced and perceived the strengthened capacity and resilience and promising farming outcome. And the trends in perceived impacts are consistent over time. Particularly, we find that being able to learn better farming practice from DigiFarm is salient in building both capacity and resilience. In addition, sending early and more comprehensive information through SMS can be an expensive solution to building resilience. After running inferential analysis, we identify a few bundle services that are significantly influencing the impact. So from this table, you can see that Loan and Arifu stand out again, either used alone or bundled with other services. Meanwhile, when bundled, using 3 or 4 services are more likely to perceive the impacts. In the end, we would also like to quickly highlight a few actionable takeaways for DigiFarm to consider for the next step. First, provide sufficient human contact to facilitate the process of onboarding, training, and follow-up afterwards. It can be something in person or a phone number for them to reach out. Secondly, continue building the capacity and resilience through SMS. We find that farmers are getting more and more comfortable with SMS-based services, and this can be an expensive way for both DigiFarm and smallholder farmers to achieve the goal. Then, what would be the best time to send SMS? DigiFarm can consider the typical time during a day when users interact with DigiFarm, which include the leisure time like lunch hour or at night, or right after farmers go to the farm in the morning. Thank you for listening. Please feel free to raise any questions you may have.
That was Joseph Daly. We work with Busara, and this exercise was specifically insightful to me because I got to realize what we can actually just get from data analytics and analyzing data that is already available at our partner level. And the next stage that you're going to be taking this together with Busara is to try and promote more data management and more better data collection systems among our partners, find ways which you can support them. And with that, we hope that we'll be able to generate insights a bit faster and at a time that is relevant to make programmatic and project decisions. And one of the partners that we have been working closely and always collecting data and information with is DigiFarm. And while working with DigiFarm, we have basically done and collected a lot of research exercises. And one of recent, we had additional funding from the Gates Foundation, where we thought it best to do a panel survey because DigiFarm is a rapid iterating platform where farmers constantly face different types of challenges each and every week. We found it best if we did a panel survey, track it over a couple of months, we'll be able to see what kind of challenges they face, what kind of trends emerge. We did this work with Busara Center for Behavioral Economics, and I would just like to share this last video with you.
Hello everyone, welcome to this session of evidence-based farmer level impacts at the annual learning event by Mercy Corps. My name is Lan, a senior associate at Busara Center for Behavioral Economics. Earlier in this session, you have heard the key learnings from a vast range of cases shared by 60 disciplines and Busara. Now I would like to take us through a particular case with DigiFarm, which is a flagship product by Safaricom. Before we get into the project details, please note that this panel studies assessed the impact from October last year to February this year. This was a time when the usual activities of both DigiFarm and farmers were severely restricted by COVID, so please keep this context in mind when making inferences from the findings. As some of you may already know, DigiFarm is an integrated mobile platform of digital services. Safaricom has aimed to make it a one-stop shop for smallholder farmers in Kenya by providing various end-to-end services. This study was particularly interested in 3, namely Arifu for learning, loan for farmers to get input and also bundled with insurance, and access to market. In addition, we also asked for product experience with precision agriculture SMS for those who received it from CropIn. This study was designed to reveal who are DigiFarm users, how are their experiences, and particularly what types of bundle service they use and what influenced the adoption and usage. Eventually, it was aimed to unpack the impacts brought by different bundle services. Two research components were designed to meet those learning objectives. A 5-month quantitative panel data collection with 1,439 users and a qualitative follow-up with 52 users. The quantitative analysis is based on 1,185 users who participated in all 5 waves. Both components were carried out in the same 11 counties in Kenya. So what did we learn from this study? I will take us through some most high-level learnings in the following few minutes. Now, who are DigiFarm users? In our sample, 38% of them are female. Among all, 38% are less than 35 years old. 72% have achieved at least some secondary school education, and 88% are married. When it comes to making decisions within the household, we find that men users possess more decision-making autonomy than women, particularly when it comes to finance. Initially in the baseline, 71% of the sample reported their primary income source as their own farm. Over time, this percentage dropped to 62%. So where did this 9% of farmer go? Over the 5 months, they switched to business, informal labor, or formal employment for primary income. This trend is largely explained by the nature of planting season in Kenya. So typically there's a long rainy season for planting from March or April to August, and then another short rainy season from October to December. Therefore, the first 3 months of our evaluation, October to December, is a post-harvest time after the long rainy season and also a planting time. Influenced by this planting cycle from October to December, we observed an increasing trend of farm expenditure, and more than half of which was paid by credit, and at the same time a dropping trend in farm profit. This planting cycle also influenced the usage of loan and access to market, but not so much for Arifu. We find that Arifu and loan are the two standalone services being used and valued most. When bundled, the most common bundle contains 2 services. The top popular ones include Arifu with loan or with Precision Ag SMS. So, what attracts users to a service? We find that services that respond to users' urgent needs or daily needs are more likely to attract them and then retain them. Particularly for Arifu, users appreciate the flexibility and the convenient learning experience. Farmers further suggest that DigiFarm should provide in-person contact so that they can reach out for questions or provide in-person trainings for farmers with limited literacy. For loan, farmers highly value the ability to take credit to buy farm inputs when they cannot afford to miss the planting time yet are low in cash. They also appreciate the good quality of inputs. The main challenge comes with delayed or failed delivery of inputs. As to access to market, farmers hold different attitudes towards selling products online, but all of them share the positive experience. Fair prices and ability to repay DigiFarm loan using the revenue from this market are most valued. We also find influential factors that significantly drive the usage. They are onboarding through DigiFarm agents, receiving training, and practicing crop farming. You can see that receiving training appears in all 3 user cases, right? So this also speaks to what we find from the user stories that human contact is highly preferred and valued during onboarding and any forms of follow-up. Follow-up is believed to be essential for not only addressing technical challenges, but also to demonstrating a sense of care to users. So after using DigiFarm services, what has changed? We find that DigiFarm users start seeking for digital solutions to fulfill their long-term purposes. They start leaning on digital learning solutions like Arifu or other SMS-based advisory services to gain farming knowledge and better practice. Then during external shocks, they also seek for timely and comprehensive advice from DigiFarm and or Safaricom SMS. SMS has become a comfortable and inexpensive way for them to stay tuned. At the same time, we also find that more users have started using mobile wallet as their primary saving platform. Overall, they have been able to gain knowledge on good farming practice, expand the farm business, save more and pay for school fees, and also build capacity for external shocks. Farmers who have been using multiple services from DigiFarm have reported positive impacts in more dimensions. In addition, positive experience with a particular service has encouraged some of them to explore and try out other types of digital solutions even beyond DigiFarm. We also measured the perceived impacts over time and found that the majority have experienced and perceived strengthened capacity and resilience and promising farming outcome. And the trends in perceived impacts are consistent over time. Particularly, we find that being able to learn better farming practice from DigiFarm is salient in building both capacity and resilience. In addition, sending early and more comprehensive information through SMS can be an expensive solution to building resilience. After running inferential analysis, we identify a few bundle services that are significantly influencing the impact. So from this table, you can see that Loan and Arifu stand out again, either used alone or bundled with other services. Meanwhile, when bundled, using 3 or 4 services are more likely to perceive the impacts. In the end, we would also like to quickly highlight a few actionable takeaways for DigiFarm to consider for the next step. First, provide sufficient human contact to facilitate the process of onboarding, training, and follow-up afterwards. It can be something in person or a phone number for them to reach out. Secondly, continue building the capacity and resilience through SMS. We find that farmers are getting more and more comfortable with SMS-based services, and this can be an expensive way for both DigiFarm and smallholder farmers to achieve the goal. Then, what would be the best time to send SMS? DigiFarm can consider the typical time during a day when users interact with DigiFarm, which include the leisure time like lunch hour or at night, or right after farmers go to the farm in the morning. Thank you for listening. Please feel free to raise any questions you may have.
That was our last presentation. I think a common trend has been seen all through that our digital services still make an impact even in the face of the pandemic. Most of the farmers were still able to gain positive effects and impact from digital services, and as a result, definitely would like to encourage the use and adoption of these digital services across our portfolio. I'm now cognizant of the time, but I'll try to pose a few questions to some of our panelists. But the key recommendation that probably I would like to make is that since we have seen that there is a critical element in terms of human touch and also in just bundling of services, this is a practice that Agrifin is going to continue to test and to see how we can implement it as a program going forward. And since I'm seeing that we're almost up close to the hour, I would just like to probably just end by saying that we will look at the questions once you have had enough time to interact with the content on the website and answer them as a team. And this is just a glimpse of what we've been able to produce as AgriFin and the research team. There are a lot more resources on our website. These our summary reports. There were more extended reports on our website as well. I would like to encourage you to go and interact with that, see what methodologies you're able to use to be able to achieve or to measure and collect evidence. Some of the things that we would like to adopt as we move forward, test new ways of measuring or collecting evidence, even using technologies like IVR, and see how all of those can be more or less implemented for a program like AgriFin and through our partners. But before we close the session, I would like just to take a few moments to recognize, because through our research, we have seen that interacting or through learning, this is like the first stage the farmers usually get to before they get comfortable with using digital services. There is a lot of capability that needs to be done or to be implemented across our farmer circles. And there are certain partners that have worked with us to increase farmer capability all through. And we have, I would like to direct the whole, everyone to our awards session, where we have pre-recorded videos of certain awards that have been given there. But for today, we just like to recognize those partners who have had impact at the farmer capability level. There's a video there by Scott, who's one of our advisory board members, and these partners are media. They produce quality and relevant content through AgriFin's life cycle. Arifu for their farmer-centric approach and always creating engaging learning content to help our farmers adapt new technologies and use this across multiple channels. And Agromol, who's a leader in blending digital and analog services to reach farmers with solutions. With that, or with those closing remarks, we'll keep a watch of the questions that are coming through the chat and the website, and we'll be able to respond to them. And there are a lot of resources that we're going to be sharing as well with this particular session. Interact with it, and with that, I'd like to encourage you to continue participating and attending the annual learning event. And we have additional impact sessions covering gender and ecosystem evaluation. I'll encourage you to join us in those presentations as well. With that, goodbye for now, and we'll see you later.